I'm so glad you have the time to join us. As promised in the invite, we have some members of the Max Foundation who are gonna, take us in a journey today and to understand what they do and how they do it. Max Foundation mission is to accelerate health equity. So I knew about the mission before I joined them as a board member a little bit more than a year ago. And I always was impressed of how efficient and they focused they were in, in delivering in their mission. But since I met them, I mean, I'm just impressed how such a small group of people can, deliver in bringing cancer medicines and hope to so many people in the world. So I just want to start the meeting introducing one of the members. So let me introduce you to Wilma Comenat. She's the VP of Development at the Max Foundation. She's based in a Max Foundation headquarters in Seattle. Wilma has joined Max approximately 3 years ago, but she's been in the non-profit industry for more than 20 years. And she told me once that the reason why she joined Max is because she saw the immediately effect that the Max action has on their patients. So Vilma, do you want to take it?
Thank you, Mabel. I want to thank you for your time and efforts in hosting today's event. Your passion to always be looking after and helping cancer patients is so genuine and admirable. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you on this presentation. So I have a few housekeeping announcements. First, you'll notice that as you entered the room, your camera and audio has been automatically turned off. And that is because we do have some international attendees and we want to save on the bandwidth. Second, this presentation is being recorded and it will be shared with you in the next few days. We encourage you to please share this with your networks because the more people who know about the work we do, the better. And then last housekeeping is there will be a Q&A at the end for all our speakers. And I ask that you please hold your questions until then. And you can type them in the chat box, or when I ask for a Q&A, you can actually just unmute yourself and ask the questions verbally, or out loud rather. All right, so let's get the show started. I now have the pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Pat Garcia-Gonzalez. Pat is the CEO and founder of the Max Foundation. Her tireless passion to ensure health equity around the world has provided thousands of patients the opportunity to live a normal lifespan. Some patients have become doctors, farmers, lawyers, parents, teachers. However, for every successful patient story, there are 3 to 4 others who need our help. It's this thought that drives Pat to push boundaries and lead the organization to continue to accelerate health equity. It is my pleasure to introduce to you, Pat.
Thank you so much, Wilma, and thank you, Mabel, and thank you to everyone for being here. It's really my deepest pleasure to be with you. And if you indulge me, I will share some slides and some stories about the work of the Max Foundation. So let me share my screen. Many of you might know that the organization was established 25 years ago in the memory of Max. Max was my stepson. We lost Max when he was 17 years old in 1991. He was diagnosed with a rare type of leukemia that maybe you've heard about. It's called chronic myeloid leukemia. October 19th, next week, is the anniversary of his birthday. I have to say that, so many years have passed. He's always in my mind and in my heart. And we see, and personally, I see him reflected in every patient that we can help, no matter where they are. And sometimes I say that we are a global health organization with a very human approach. our goal is to save people's lives, as many as we can, so that other families don't have to go through what we had to go through with Max. And we started the Max Foundation, and we opened an email address, help@themaxfoundation.org. We wanted to make sure that we could help people have access to the resources that are out there in the community. And, we didn't know what emails we were going to receive, but all the emails that we started receiving until today were from people who themselves or their family members are diagnosed with some type of cancer. They are told that there is a medicine, that there is a treatment that can help them, but the treatment is not in their country. And I think that's one of the worst things that can happen to you, not only to hear the word cancer, but to know that there is a possibility to get better, but because of the place you are, you don't have it. And so that's the first lesson that we learned early on in our work, is that something I didn't know before, which is that most, if not all, cancer medicines that are developed today will never reach most people in the world, even though these people really, really need these medicines. And so we talk about our vision being that, all people should be able to access these medicines. We say geography should not be destiny. And, what we want is that everyone can strive for health with dignity and with hope. And, very early on in the year 2000, as we started receiving these emails and trying to help people, we received an email on behalf of this young man. His name is Raul, and he's in Honduras. And it's exactly that story I just said. Raul was just diagnosed with the same type of leukemia Max had. And the difference is, at the time in the year 2000, this great medicine was coming to the market that changed the nature of this disease so that people can really survive the disease. And he was desperate trying to get this medicine. And so we set out to figure out how to save Raul's life. Now, it's a big task, and we have overcome many hurdles in the past 22 years. The big challenge is, how do you get medicine to people that need it urgently around the world in countries where this medicine is absolutely not available? And our answer to that question is Max Access Solutions. So I'll tell you a little bit about Max Access Solutions, because it's different than anything that anybody else has done. So I'll tell you a little bit about the model. At the center of the model is the patient that needs a treatment today. And then, there are 4 big pillars of this model. The first one, obviously, is the treating physicians. They're very important partners of us. And over the last 20 years, we have been able to form a very strong network of healthcare providers in the countries where we're working. They are the ones that are able to send the request on behalf of patients to us. The second pillar is our team members, some of whom you're going to meet today. We couldn't do the work without them. So in many of the countries where we're working, we have local coordinators and program officers and managers that not only help provide services and support to patients, but support physicians and support the logistics of the program. The third pillar is our partnership with the drug manufacturers and the treatment that is made available through them. And the fourth pillar, of course, is shipping and logistics. We have the medicines in a warehouse in the US and 2 different locations in Europe, and we ship the medicines directly into these hospitals for specific patients that need it. And all of this is kind of brought together by a very smart virtual environment that we developed ourselves. It's called PATS, Patient Access Tracking System. And that's how we're able to help so many patients around the world every year. So I'm very happy to share this picture of you. I don't know if you recognize him, but that is Raul. We were able to provide medicine to him. He's aged a little bit, not me. I look the same as I did 22 years ago. But he was able to establish a family. He was able to support his family. He was able to access that treatment he needed for about 18 years. And then he needed a different treatment. And I'm so proud and happy that we were able also to give him access to that treatment. And this picture I want to show you is a different story. This picture was taken in 2009 in Tanzania at a conference. This gentleman in the photo is one of our partner physicians from Ethiopia. He's actually one of 2 hematologists in Ethiopia at the time. And both of them were our partners. And this is the first time I met him. And at the time we were helping 200 patients in Ethiopia have access to cancer treatment. And I felt so proud of myself. So when I met him, I said, I'm so grateful to be able to play a small role in 200 people in your country having access to this cancer treatment. And he looked at me and he said, I'm extremely grateful. He said, but I need you to understand that for the 200 patients in your program, I have 400 others who don't have a house to sell, so they can come up with $600 so they can send their blood to Germany, so they can confirm their diagnosis, so they can get into your program. And I was shocked. I did not know this. And it felt to me impossible, like something that we could not accept, really unacceptable, that we have a really wonderful treatment, that we have access to it, that we can give it to patients, but we cannot get them diagnosed. So honestly, after this day, when I met him, any time for the next couple of months, every time I met somebody, I told them this story. And I learned 2 things. One, that it was not just a problem in Ethiopia, that most of them in the low and middle income countries, not only there's no access to the treatments, there's no access to the diagnostics either. So even if you have the treatment, people cannot get diagnosed. And the other one that there was some technology being developed that was really great for low resource settings, and that we should think about how can we bring that to the countries where we're working. So it took about 2 years of ups and downs, but yeah, it was October. Let me see, where's my screen? Oh, here. It was October of 2011, 2 years later, when I was personally at the hospital in Addis Ababa, and we were preparing to do the first molecular test to diagnose cancer in sub-Saharan Africa. Literally, this is all of us standing around. The test took 90 minutes and we stood there just waiting for the first result. And I have to say, when we had the result, the physician said, I feel like I'm a surgeon that has been operating in the dark and somebody just turned on the light and I can see what's happening with my patient. It was a really wonderful moment. And that morning we did 4 tests, and one of the tests was in this young man, for this young man, who was, at the time, he was a medical student, and he was diagnosed with leukemia. His name is, we call him Fish because, he has one of those Ethiopian names that are impossible to pronounce. So everybody calls him Fish. So Fish decided when he finished medical school that he wanted to be a hematologist. Of course, there was no hematology residency program in Ethiopia, so they opened one for him. And this is the last time I saw Dr. Fish. This was November of 2019, before the pandemic, at a conference. He is doing great. He is now one of 3 hematologists in Ethiopia. And he's actually the director of the hematology department at Black Lion Hospital in Addis Ababa. And when I told him I was going to tell his story, he quickly said, I have to WhatsApp you a picture because you have to show a picture of my family. And so he wanted me to share this picture because not only he's been able to become a doctor, but he's been able to establish his family, and he's very proud and grateful for everything that has happened, and he's doing actually great. So let me change region of the world. I want to share just for a moment the story of this girl. Her name is Jessica, or young woman, I shall say. She was diagnosed with cancer when she was 16. not too different from the time when Max was diagnosed. But the difference is we were able to give her access to the treatment that she needed. She finished high school. She's gone to law school. She sent us this picture last year. She told us she had finished law school and now is working on her master's program in El Salvador. And this story I want to tell you is the story of Kailash. And Kailash, the picture on the left is 15 years ago when he walked into her office when he was 10 years old. And the picture on the right is Kailash today. He's a farmer. He lives in a village very far away from the big city in India. And last year he sent us, he wrote his story for us. And one of the things that he said, I wrote it down because I thought it was so poignant. He said, I was scared when I entered the Max Foundation India office, but I met wonderful people over there who assured me that I will get these medicines free of cost. In few days, I received my prescribed medicine. I went back to my village with hope. And this is the hope that Mabel was talking about. But Kailash has a difficult situation. You know, he's on treatment and he has to come back to the big city every 3 or 4 months. You know, the journey is not an easy one. It takes him about 24 hours. It takes an overnight train, and then he takes like 3 different buses and then another train. And then finally he gets to the doctor's office and he has the appointment and he gets his medicine. He doesn't have a place to stay, so he has to start immediately the journey back. So this to say that, you know, the barriers to access to treatment are many. You know, even when we have the medicine, even when we have the diagnostics, there are patients that need transportation help to be able to make sure that they go to they can continue in treatment, and that's how we support patients sometimes. And so, you know, this is the scope of the programs that we have. We work in more than 70 countries. We have almost 600 physician partners working in 380 hospitals around the world. We now don't have not only one medicine available, but we have 14 different medicines for different types of cancers. And we are a mighty team of 70 plus around the world. And, you know, we've helped overall more than 100,000 patients. This year alone, we will be able to provide services and treatment to 35,000 patients or so. So you can imagine that I have 100,000 stories, but I have been warned I cannot tell 100,000 stories. So I will only tell you this one last because it's very important to me. This little guy here is Najair, and Najair is from Jamaica, and he's 8. I was able to talk to him last week, last year. I was able to connect with him and his mom and his sister, and he said, he wants to grow up to be a doctor. He wants to be a surgeon. I think that's what he said. You know, he was diagnosed when he was 4. He's on treatment. And the thing about him that I always want to keep his picture around, he's going to need us for many years to come. And I think this is why we are here, because we have to be there for Najair so that he can fulfill his dream of becoming a doctor. So I'm happy to share more stories with you later or answer any questions. I really want to thank you for listening, and I will send it back to our wonderful host, Mabel. And I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Pat. So as I mentioned before, this is a journey, and we have different, you know, people who are going to take us there. So the next speaker I have the honor to present is Mei Ting Yang. Mei Ting is the regional lead for Asia Pacific, Eastern Europe, and Central Asia. Small region, right? So she's been with the Max Foundation for more than a decade. She's based on Malaysia, and she's super passionate about, you know, access to treatment and supporting other needs of the patients. And of course, that totally aligned with, Mac's mission and vision. So I think she has a lot to tell about how Max functions, what they do. So Metin, you want to take over?
Sure. All right. Thank you so much, Mabel, and hello all. Good morning from Malaysia. And let me share my screen. I'm hoping my screen is pop up. All right. Okay. Thank you for spending the time with us this morning. Oh no, it's probably like this afternoon because I'm in Malaysia, so it's kind of time zone is a little bit kind of like reverse. Okay, so from the earlier presentations that my colleague Pat has shared, that we're all aware that when a person is diagnosed with cancer or a chronic disease, the burden is not only impacting the patient, but also the family. So access to treatment is not as simple as we all thought. And over the years, we realized that treatment availability does not guarantee accessibility. And taking a real situation that we have witnessed in Malaysia, we do have most of the treatments available in government hospital. However, some patients are reluctant to start treatment because they are worried about the impact of intensive treatment, especially losing the ability to continue to earn and provide for basic needs for the family. These are the patients typically from low and middle socioeconomic families, and not many of them have an adequate safety net for getting full wages while on prolonged medical leave from work. So we have a lot of patients who are self-employed, such as food vendors or daily earned workers like lorry drivers. Once they stop working, they stop getting their income. So in this family, very often the children, especially the eldest child, will need to stop schooling and get a job, earn to support the family basic needs. So in such situation, we realize that we need a niche solution and enable the patients to start treatment and complete the treatment in a timely manner, as well as to support the children to complete schooling, at least to a secondary school with a national certificate. Only through education, these children will have an opportunity to get out from their low socioeconomic situation and live in the better conditions, including their health and well-being. So 8 years ago, inspired by a hematologist in Malaysia, we were brave to take the first step. We initiated Max Schooling Project in Malaysia, partnering with the hematologist and the local patient group. So in Malaysia, we call this project as Sambung Sekolah, which Sambung means continue, Sekolah means school. So literally it means continue schooling. Through partnering with physicians, we identify children of cancer patients who need financial support to enable them to continue schooling. The approved child will be given financial support of $25 a month, and our team is in demanding contact with the family to provide emotional support. These will help to facilitate the patients, which are the parents, ability to complete treatment. And I am happy to share the progress. So we started by supporting 7 children in 2014, and 8 years later, we are supporting 228 active children. So the number of referred children is increasing in these years, showing the needs of patients' community and also the usefulness of this program. In these 8 years, in total, Max Schooling has supported 277 children of 140 patients. So out of these children who have been helped, about 50 of them, about 17% of them have graduated from secondary school. They require qualification before a student pursuing to a college or tertiary education. And we're very proud to see that 18 of them are actually pursuing their studies in the college and university. So what does that really mean? So this is actually a significant milestone, as this will rewrite the overall situation of the family moving forward. Now, we need to do our best to provide the support to the current active children in the program, these 230 and probably more, so that they can also have such opportunities. 2 years ago, we are all being hit hard by COVID, and max schooling family have become more difficult in terms of economic status. Even before the pandemic, we had heard about period poverty and its impact. Some girls have to skip school during their menses because they cannot afford to buy sanitary pads. It is a very sad story to learn. So that made us initiate Lex Kongsi for max schooling families. Kongsi is a local word and it means sharing. So Let's Kongsi is a project that built on a spirit of sharing community resources with the needy. We send packages containing sanitary pads, masks, and other necessities to the family. We aim to have these packages sent to the families 2 times in a year. So you can see, those are the lovely messages of the families sent to our team once they got the package. It means care to them besides the practical support. And we have received this very joyful video clip as well. I'm going to play this so that you guys can listen to it and watch. So to me, when we actually received that clip, it really means something, like it really means the significant, like the excitement of the kid told us the story very well. Okay, and this is Dr. Azizan, one of the physicians that we're partnering with in the program. He has been telling us numerous times about how impactful this program is to his parents, to the patients and the family. And in terms of they choose to start the treatment so that he can treat the patients the more effective way. Next, this is Umi Balkis, the girls that in the picture. So she is a child that we have helped, and she's currently a first-year college student. Umi's father was diagnosed with lymphoma in 2015. He was working as a palm oil factory worker. And due to his frequent treatment follow-ups, his earning was much lesser than before the diagnosis. And the father also needed to go through a bone marrow transplant, and he has to stop working for a few months. So we have helped his 3 children since 2015, and now 2 of the eldest are in the college. And this is very exciting to know. And currently, we're still supporting the youngest kid. So all this story really like telling us a very strong message, looking at how max schooling creates a positive impact on this family is proven that we are actually doing the right thing by creating a needing solution to fill in this gap. Umi has a video message for us and we'll watch that later. What is next for max schooling? So very exciting to kind of like share this plan. So in Malaysia, we aim to expand the number of children in the program, and we are duplicating the initiative beyond Malaysia. So in Philippines, we have kickstarted the pilot a few weeks ago, and we have just received the first application last week. And for Thailand, we are planning to work on the needs assessment next year. So Max team are committed to working with stakeholders, including you, in creating a future for patients and their children. So just imagine the endless positive impact of the program on this family. So thank you everyone for your time. And now let's watch Umi's in her own words.
Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Nama saya Umi Balkis. Saya merupakan anak kepada ayah saya Nazli Nawawi yang merupakan bekas pesakit kanser. Beliau mengidap kanser limfoma. Pada awalnya saya berasa sedih dengan penyakit yang dihadapi oleh beliau. Sewaktu saya berumur 14 tahun. Akan tetapi saya perlu kuat menghadapi segala ujian. Saya menjadikan ia sebagai satu cabaran dalam hidup saya untuk lebih menumpukan pelajaran dan mendapatkan keputusan yang cemerlang. Saya juga ingin mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih kepada Med Foundation kerana telah meringankan beban keluarga saya dari segi kewangan dan segalanya. Segala jasa anda amat kami hargai sekeluarga. Terima kasih.
So I believe Umi's message is very inspiring, and I'm especially moved to watch Umi tell us about her 7A flying colors result. That is a very, very good result because people actually, students actually go for 8 subjects and she got 7 A's. Wow. So Mabel, turn it over to you now. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ching. You know, it's really, yes, it's inspiring to hear your stories. And as Pat mentioned, you know, the beginning, you know, of Max helping these patients is access to treatment, to the drugs, but there is so much, you know, that Max does and that this patient needs, you know, in order to really, you know, get healthy and, you know, be able to work and function in their communities. So the next speaker is Kathy Shippers. Kathy is the regional lead for Africa and the Middle East for the Max Foundation. She's based on South Africa, and she was born and raised in South Africa. So she has a very, you know, firsthand understanding of the challenges and the needs of the patients in the developing world. And she's very passionate about her region, her people, and her region. So, Kathy, take it over.
Thank you, Mabel, for the opportunity. And as always, I'm in the shadow of giants in the company of people that share in our passion. My story relates to our work, and it also addresses a different need. It addresses a different aspect of how we can help. I was able to record my story earlier, so I'm going to play a little video and take you on a journey with me into another country in Africa. Welcome here in South Africa. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share a little bit about the work we've done in the region, specifically focusing on Zimbabwe. So I'd like to take you back to 2015 when I had the opportunity to do an outreach in the neighboring countries of Namibia, Botswana and Zimbabwe in partnership with CMLSA, the local patient organization here in South Africa. The objective of this outreach was to train our nursing teams on CML, but also engage with the patient communities in the neighboring countries as they themselves have not established CML-specific patient organizations at that time. This was an incredible trip because not only did we meet incredibly dedicated and passionate healthcare workers, but we got to meet patients in the neighboring countries that traveled really far just to come and meet with us and also learn about their disease and engage about what the future holds for them. The one country that stood out was Zimbabwe. The expectation on patient turnout during these meetings is usually low as we consider that patients really travel from far and few have funding just to get to the site for a meeting like this. However, that morning we walked into a room where 60 patients were waiting to hear what we had to say and to engage with us about their disease and their condition. I started the session by asking the patients in the room, how many of you have had the opportunity to meet another CML patient? There wasn't one hand that went up, and it was pretty clear that the patients in the room had for a very long time felt isolated and believed that what was happening to them was unique to them. As we started to discuss the disease, the symptoms, the treatment, potential side effects, the engagement in the room was incredible to see how patients started sharing and hearing from each other and learning from each other and feeling less isolated, and you could see a community starting. One of the things we did discuss in the session as well was the importance of PCR and monitoring. And the feedback from the group was that is something they did not have access to. They did not know how they were responding to their treatment, and they really had no idea what their outcomes were going to be. At the end of the session, a group of patients approached us and they committed and told us that they would be starting a patient organization in Zimbabwe. They would be providing support to other patients and they would be advocating for PCR. And that's exactly what they did. It wasn't a month or two later that I received the notice from the CML Trust Zimbabwe that they were an established organization, and the next step for them was to then actively start advocating for PCR. Easier said than done. Despite there being several gene experts in the country, they came into the same challenge that we hear so often, that the machines are dedicated to specific programs, either HIV, either TB, but the CML community did not have access to these machines. But where there's a will, there's a way, and this patient organization decided, if everybody tells us no, we will just buy our own machine. And they started fundraising and getting the funds together to buy their own machine so they could have access to monitoring and PCR. They did a lot of great work and raised a lot of money. However, the political situation in Zimbabwe changed and the currency was depreciated to the extent where everything they raised was pretty much worth nothing. Earlier this year, Cethia donated a gene expert to the Max Foundation, which we could then donate to a needy country or patient community. And there was no doubt that Zimbabwe would benefit from this machine. The machine arrived in country in April, and I was very fortunate to be there at the time of the unveiling. It was such an emotional day to stand there with somebody like Onward that I met for the first time in 2015. So many years later, seeing how their lives are going to change because of this device or intervention. The same patients that came up to us in 2015 and said, "We will do this," had done it. This was an incredible day of celebration and seeing the impact of their work, of having heard their voices and now seeing the fruits of their labor. Their lives were literally changed. And I think all of us that witnessed it were there at the same time with them. The beautiful part about the story is not only the lives being impacted today, but is also about the lives that will be changed forever in the future. Dr. Ian Machanguru is the head of the lab and that is now housing this donated machine, also committed that the medical students that go through the lab will be trained in the application of the gene expert for CML, but also explain to them that the machine can be used for other disease areas and diagnostics. Therefore, when the medical students go into the rural clinics, they will see these machines and know that these machines have the potential to do more than they are currently doing and potentially change more lives. This is an example not only of a patient community starting and being established and advocating and actually fulfilling a need, but this is also a story of that need now affecting a healthcare system and strengthening that healthcare system moving forward. I look forward to see how the program in Zimbabwe continues to develop and grow. It is through the will of the patients, it is through the help of the global community that there is hope, that there is a future for so many today, but also a future for so many tomorrow. Thank you for spending the time with me today here in the hot sun. I hope it's hot and sunny where you are. And please reach out if you need to connect with us or need any more information. Bye. Thank you for allowing me to share that story. And it just shows that it's a domino effect. It starts with one question being asked. It starts with making one point. And it not only changes one community, it has the potential to change an entire country and the future for so many out there. So for me, it's a great honor to share that. And I look forward to sharing more of these stories in the future. Thank you, Mabel.
Thank you so much, Kathy. There is no doubt that, your people, your region is your passion. And, it just shows, with you telling the story and, baking in the sun. That was good. So, journey has taken us to Malaysia, to some countries in Africa, and from the next, arm of our journey today, we're going to stay in Africa. We are going to go to Uganda. A couple of years ago, a group of people from the Max Foundation, together with supporters of the Max Foundation, went to Uganda. They meet with patients, they meet with physicians, they meet with the family of the patient, with their caretakers. And, they obviously, they are all people who were affected by, Max Foundation. So I hope that what we are going to show to you now is highlights from that trip. And I hope it helps you understand too what Max does for these people in these countries.
The Max Foundation is an organization dedicated to accelerating health equity by delivering medication, technology, and services to cancer patients in about every corner of the world. I have been working in cancer for 20 years. I come to this as a caregiver of my stepson Max. The one thing people want, if you ask anyone when they are facing cancer, they want to make sure that their loved one can have access to treatment no matter where they live.
Within our organization, if we look at the demographics of our patients, most of our patients are from Africa. When you put your feet down in African soil, you can feel the vibration of life traveling through your body. We wanted our partners to come here and experience that, because then they know we have to change it, not for the 5,000 patients we are currently helping, but for the 10,000, 15 or 20,000 we are currently not reaching.
My name is Ahmed Awad. Once I know that I'm cancer patient, I asked myself and I asked God, I looked at the sky, why me? I was 24 years old, I'm so young. So I'm asking myself, why me? What I did in my life? Why my life stopped now?
My name is Bahija Gwimi.
My name is Hiba Nashid.
I was very afraid to lose my family, and especially my kids, because they are everything in my life. I remember they start crying and they, cancer is dead and mom will go.
My name is Gershon from Ghana. If it's leukemia, nothing, no amount of money would save me. So I left myself that I should die. That is basically what I did.
Sometimes you want to give up, and but when I see the first box, this is for me. It's not only a box of tablets or pills or medication. For me, it's the future.
I tried it, and within a certain short time, I think 2 weeks or so, I started feeling better. The joint pains, everything started becoming normal. Then there I said, hi, this medicine is going to work for me.
Partnerships are critical to the work that we do. When we work together with partners, we learn more, we advance more, we increase our opportunities.
We got a call from the Max Foundation probably over a decade ago to donate some product. We did so once we learned who Max is and what they were about. And then over time we got on the phone and had more conversations about what they were doing, and it really became an inspiration and a challenge for our company to be able to assist them as an NGO pioneering the pharma space.
Seviet and the Max Foundation is a little bit of a match made in heaven from my point of view, because I think the goals of the two organizations are the same. It's allowing everyone in the world, no matter what their financial status is or where they live, to have access to the diagnostics and the drugs that can help them. It really comes down to accessibility.
These people are people. They're not just patients. They are not their disease. They are not the place they're from. They all have the same dreams that I do. They all have the same hopes that I do. They all have the same fears that I do. They just want more time with their family.
I love my family, and I am very, very happy to have them because they support me. They give me much love. We laugh about our cancer, but I am very friend with my cancer because he allows me to see the life and to see other people and to see how amazing is my life.
The Max Foundation.
Dignity and hope
in the face
of cancer.
Okay, and we are back where we are. The journey has finished. So I think it's time now to, if you have questions, please, you can, I think I'm gonna turn into Vilma. Vilma, can you please help us, if we have questions, who wants to
Sure. Yeah, so at this point, hopefully all of you have enjoyed the journey around the world. We'd like to open up the floor now for questions. So you have a couple of options. I think you can unmute yourself or you can type the question in the chat box. So don't be afraid to let us hear your voice. So I'll just open up the floor for anyone who has questions.
So Wilma, this is Terry Ann Betancourt. I'm calling in from Seattle, Washington. What an impactful presentation. Every time I participate in anything to do with Max Foundation, I find out more, I learn more, the heartstrings are tugged more. So thank you for that. I do have a question for Mei Ching. It looks like the Max schooling program is really, really successful in your area. And I'm wondering if is that a pilot program for Max? Is it a program that is offered in other regions? Is it primarily in your region? Can you tell us a little bit more about how that works with the foundation, please?
Sure, I'm happy to share that progress, and thank you for that question. So we started that 8 years ago, back in 2014, and honestly, we don't know whether it will be successful or not during that time. That's why, if you remember, that we started with 7 kids during that year. And the programs kick off. And of course, during the first 2 years, it was a pilot in Malaysia, only with a very small community, because we just want to kind of like make sure before we go big, everything's, like on the logistically and also on the administrative perspective, as well as the impact that the family is being taken care of. So the first 2 years, or even like the first 3 years, I'll say that we are using it as a pilot to kind of like have a feel, as well as to kind of like run it to make sure the money part is actually being all right, like we kind of like have a good recording from the accounting and the auditing perspective as well, and all that. And moving forward, we feel more comfortable as well. And also we are seeing a big change. One thing about this program is not about just giving money, it's about creating that opportunity, helping the parents to start treatment, helping the kids to stay in school. And personally, I feel that the other biggest thing that we're doing through this program is actually the educations to the
healthcare professional team that when you treat a patient, you're not only treating the patient, you are treating a person and a family. So it's a kind of like the social situation of the patient becoming equally important as checking the response result of a treatment. So we do it for that, and we're taking like step by step. And this year, eventually, after 8 years, we feel it's time, and we feel it's confident that to kind of like bring these programs beyond the local community, which is Malaysia. So that's why this year we kickstart the pilot in Philippines, and next year, obviously, we want to do it in more countries. So next year we are aiming in Thailand to do a needs assessment as well as the situation in the program. I think there are a few things that we actually learned. Number one, the country will need to have a good schooling system. It's not about the school is good or not, but it's a system that patients and the kids, the families can access to the school system easily. Then this program will actually work and give us like more successful rate. So I hope that I answered the question.
That did. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mei Ching. Thank you, Terry Ann, for the question. I'm opening up the floor for any other questions for any of the speakers.
Wilma, this is Mark Murray. I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I too happen to be calling in from Seattle, Washington. I actually have a two-part question for Kathy. Kathy, if you could help me here. We hear a lot of, when we learn about the Max Foundation, we hear a lot about the medication and some of the support services and so forth, like Mei Ching was talking about, not so much about the diagnostic piece. And I'm wondering could you give us a feeling for maybe within your region or the whole organization, how critical is the diagnostic piece? Is it like absolutely critical, or it's nice to have? It's a nice add-on, but it isn't necessarily on the critical path to your mission. That's kind of the first part of my question. And the second part is, nowadays there are some pretty cheap PCR tools that are available that you can get in your own house and do COVID testing in your bathroom. Is this kind of thing you think suitable and for, say, something like CML or cancer diagnosis? And could that kind of technology help you with solving the first problem?
Thank you, Mark, and I'm going to try and answer your questions as well as I can. So yes, diagnostics is critical. You cannot treat what you don't know. So we first need to identify exactly what it is that we are going to treat and then prescribe. The challenge in this region, as you've pointed out, is the lack of diagnostics. It is something not just within the CML community, pretty much in cancer in Africa, that is absolutely lacking. The world's already going into personalized medicine. We're looking at mutational testing, genetic screening, and we don't even have basic resources within our labs. But then we have equipment like the Gene Expert that we refer to, that was a newer invention about 11 years ago, as Pat alluded to, that came into our disease or the areas that we treat, that we could absolutely go and say, this will make a difference in the diseases we treat. So diagnostics, yes, it's critical. Is it lacking? Yes, it's lacking. How are we impacting that? Well, through our initiatives and through our partnerships with organizations like SafeViet, we do now also not only donate medicine, we also donate diagnostic tests. So there are countries we work in, specifically in Africa, and I know Mei Ching's region and some in South America, where we actually donate the cartridges that can be used in these machines to help diagnose and monitor patients. And that program is also expanding as we expand our treatment. It aligns well with the new products we bring in. We also try to find the diagnostic solution to align. The question on innovation and things out there, I think we're keeping our ears on the ground. We're constantly partnering and looking at what's happening in the market. And any innovation, obviously, that will change lives. I think, Pat, you're sitting at the top and you get more feedback from this, but anything that will impact will be applied and will be used. We're seeing great advances already in lower and middle income countries. Just one of the examples I've seen personally is how they apply drones in smaller geographical countries to collect samples and bring it back to centralized labs where they can run tests. So I think the future is looking bright and exciting. The question is, how quickly can we accelerate getting that exciting innovation into the regions? But we're working hard to do it as fast as possible so that we could help as many people as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for the question. Thank you, Kathy. We have time for probably one more question.
Well, great. I'll jump in then. This is Tracy Higgins, and I have a question for Pat. The Max Foundation experiences many challenges when creating programs to help people overcome many health-related challenges in low and middle income countries. So what is one obstacle, at least, I know there's many, that could be overcome if people knew about the barrier or knew how to help?
Thank you for the question, and also thank you for the question to me, because I wanted to jump in and answer all the questions for everyone. It's true. One day I sat down to make a list of the challenges and the barriers to access to treatment that we face, and in 10 minutes I came up with 26. So there's many layers of barriers, which is why you cannot have like only one way of fixing the problem. You have to come at it for so many different directions. I think the first thing that I hope I conveyed today is this whole thing that people don't know, that these drugs will never, by design, never get to most people in the world. And it should not be acceptable. I assumed anybody that comes up with a medicine has a global access strategy that is actually an access strategy. And it turns out that they don't. And I think we should not accept that anymore. And I think companies need to come up, not only, I mean, you know, sometimes you see price reductions or some pricing models, but that doesn't help the problem, like we just said. So that one, I think I want everybody to understand and demand that if you come up with a medicine, you really have to have a plan how you're going to take it everywhere. And our vision is that all the companies will work with us, because we have created the really controlled way to bring these medicines to people. So to the extent that if you have a list of 80 countries where you're never going to bring your drugs, you'll have to work with us and we'll take it to the patient. So that's number one. But if I can cheat and have a second one, I'll say that the second one is the diagnostics. You know, we start with a medicine because that's the first thing people need, but you know, it doesn't help to have the medicines if we don't have the diagnostics. And we are doing a lot, like Kathy mentioned. We are supporting the diagnostics of patients in about 17 countries this year, but there's so much more. And you can imagine the investment in a test that costs perhaps $50, and $50 is a lot of money for somebody in one of our countries. But if we can support the initial diagnosis and we can give a patient treatment for all the life of that they need, I mean, you'll never have a better return on investment for what you can do. So I see those are the top ones.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Pat. Pat's not passionate at all. So I want to thank you all for your questions. I'm now going to turn it back to Mabel.
Yes, I know that, you know, the hour went by, so we are almost out of time. But see why I'm so passionate about Max Foundation. So, you know, you heard, you know, Pat sharing his story. She wanted to, you know, keep Max alive, and that's how, you know, prompt her to help other people. You know, Mei Ching with the story of, you know, Max schooling. You know, Kathy, you know, again with her passion about the people in her region, and how one machine can make such a difference in just one country. And we have I think, so many more stories to tell. So I hope these stories have inspired you as they inspire me. And, it's more than inspire. It's really, it's almost like it's bad news that the patient have cancer, but it's good news that there are, institutions like Max who reach out to help them. Actually, Max has gone where not other, with nobody have dared to go before, and they have succeeded. They are doing something nobody else is doing. And 35,000 patients received treatment through Max last year. So that's success. That's the measure of success. 35,000 patients received treatment that they would have not received it if it wasn't for Max. So if these stories has inspired you, please consider donating to Max Foundation. As Katy say, we reach a lot of patients, but there's so many more out there that we need your help in order to reach them. And by helping Max, you'll be part of those stories too. So thank you very much for being with us today in our journey.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mabel. You're the best. And thank you, everyone. And I hope that you stay engaged with us. I'll love to, anyone that wants to write to me, and I'll be happy to chat with you anytime.